Gaskets in it, but I didn't could be just
That's the engine in the wagon or the Rampside?
Bearings until '64.
Really?
They had copper bearings, yeah, so they wear pretty bad and they clunk.
That's the wagon or the Rampside you're talking with the clunk?
You're talking about the Rampside.
The wagon.
No, the wagon. That's the one that sat for 30 years. He bought from a junkyard for $100 30 years ago.
And it ran okay, but of course I never ran it with brand new rings and gaskets in it. So I put new rings and gaskets in, hole in the sleeve, you know, all that stuff.
How many miles on it?
It showed 71,000.
Wow. But off the road since 1980, it's a 20-year-old vehicle.
But
and it runs nice.
The bearings looked okay when I put new rings on the pistons.
You're talking about rod bearings?
Yeah,
you don't know what the main bearing, you just put the case, right?
Yeah, I did put the case.
Well, that's what it is, I think. I mean, that's what it sounds like. Is it? See, they only use half flange bearings, from 61 to 63, they use half flange bearings on the thrust bearing, and then they use them copper bearings, and they're not very good bearings. And then if somebody overheated it and stretched your case, you know.
Do you think a high volume oil pump would help pumping oil in?
It causes more problems than it solves.
Really?
You have to fix the real problem. Yeah, it'll wear out your distributor drive gear in the housing. I don't like those high volume pumps.
Because you're forcing it when the oil's cold, and he lives in the cold area.
I wouldn't.
Well, split the case.
It's not that hard to do.
Split the case.
I mean, it's the last thing that happens when you take it apart.
Because it's running great. It just thumps when it's warm, and the oil pressure light flickers on.
And there was a guy at the convention.
Oh, the oil pressure light? Oh, you definitely got a bearing bad if it's losing oil pressure at idle.
It's flicking on and off sometimes.
Oh yeah, you got a real problem.
Yeah.
You should be able to see that if it's that bad.
I haven't paid attention.
You should see a wiped out bearing.
Okay.
When you split the case,
right?
But then you're into it.
You got to split the case.
Then you got to maybe turn the crank.
Unless you got a plug journal or something.
Was it sludgy inside? Clean.
But you go around the corner or something, and the pressure light once in a while would come on.
Because you're at idle.
Straighten back up again.
Well, it's starving for oil. Is the bottom of the oil pan bashed in? Okay.
It's a nice car. It's a nice.
Wow.
I never paid attention to it running though because I didn't know it had a problem.
So the two main bearings, one in here and here. One of these.
There's four. There's one on every rib.
Well, here, come look at the case. We got a case. Got a case. There's one right here on the back of the 63, right here.
Hey, you take the sucker apart.
This is a truck case.
Well, they're the same on cars. So you got this is your main thrust bearing here. See, that's your thrust surface.
Right.
That's kind of a little wipe.
Yeah. This bearing's missing, but there should be a bearing here, and a bearing here.
Both.
And this one's a special one. The fourth. This one's different than these other three. You got to look at the bearings when you have them new and look, and there's numbers on the back of them. So you put the thrust bearing, you can't, that's the only place the thrust bearing goes. And then you got a bearing here, and then the special one goes here.
Why is it special?
I don't know, it's just a different size. It's like 3/1000ths different.
Really?
So if somebody had it apart and messed the bearings up, that could do it. But, you know, if you get crap in one of these feed holes, you know, it'll starve that bearing for oil, and it won't, you know.
You also have a problem where the bearing, the block halves don't meet properly. I've seen it where the oil's pushing against the dead surface.
Yep.
So
I check everything.
You just
when you have one down this far.
You chamfer it. You can see when you split it that the oil's pushing against that slot and it's missing it by half because they're not machined the same on both sides. So you just take a little file or whatever tool and you open it up slightly. Make sure.
I actually run a wire thing. When you take these bearings out, see that feed hole goes. You see where it goes down into the. See your oil comes in through here, goes to all your lifters first. Then it comes up from the valleys and goes to your mains, and then from there it goes into your cam, of course, too. It feeds your cam.
The oil pump couldn't be clogged because all it is two gears going together, a geroda.
Yeah, right? But the pickup could be clogged.
But you had the oil pan off when you didn't you pull the oil pan when you were doing
I've never seen a clogged pickup in my life.
Never. Well, I've seen them, but they're pretty rare.
Yeah.
That's pretty sludgy.
That's
pretty gross.
I've never seen one clogged up.
That's people that don't change the oil in their Pontiac for 3 or 4 years.
The screen is like this big. It's huge.
Yeah, it's big. But
yeah, but if you don't change your oil, everything turns to jelly.
Yeah.
But it's pretty uncommon, but it does happen.
No, the Corvairs never had oil in them. They were always dadding all the time. Why would it be sludge?
Yeah, because they're always leaking. They're always putting new oil. Good point.
Somebody could have run it out of oil and wiped out a bearing too. You never know.
How's that cam surface? Looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks okay.
Yeah, because when that goes bad, what do? Line bore it and put cam bearings in?
No, you got to sleeve the cam. You line bore this, but then you sleeve the cam.
Because Billy was saying that the other guy at the junkyard, Dwayne and Peyton, was saying that he has an International that spun the cam bearings. They disintegrate in the International V8 engines, disintegrate cam bearings.
Never heard of that.
What, on the diesels?
No, on the 70s International engines, the 345. Cam bearings let go, they just disintegrate.
Wow.
Common problem.
Huh.
Never recalled it. So
I never heard that. I've had the Internationals for a while.
You chamfer the oil hole a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, to smooth the flow of it coming out of the, look at that casting flash in the drain hole, the return hole to the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah, junk. That's the way GM built them.
Yeah.
Get them at the door, they'll usually run.
They never thought they'd live 50 years, that's for sure.
Loose flashing pieces, I just busted a piece off.
Yeah. Oh, definitely flashing head.
Yeah, so it sounds like you got a project this winter, you're gonna split that block. And then if the bearings are bad, you just put new bearings in, but you have to plastic gauge them.
Yeah, you gotta measure it. you know.
But you don't have to line bore the block or straighten the crank. It's getting too
so
technical.
just standard oversized bearing you'd need?
Well, you can't buy 001s. You got to just take it apart and see what's in it, and then you know, and then mic your crank. At least mic the crank
to make sure it's standard size. Because sometimes GM used a 1,000th or a 10,000th undersize.
Yeah, I've seen them where it had different sizes on each side of the block.
Right, because the block was machined too big, so they shimmed it on one side with a slightly thicker, but you can't buy them.
See, when they assembled these, they used an air, what they call air gauge to measure everything. You know, they'd run an air gauge through it, and then the guy, then they'd just pick out the right color thing. You know, everything was all color coded. Oh. Yeah.
So. You may find, but you don't put 10,000s. 10,000s is only when you grind the crank.
Yeah, it'd be a 001.
That's a whole different ballgame. That's a machine shop job.
So whatever I take out for the old one
make sure you mark what you got out of there.
Will be what I need for the new one. Okay.
You might just find the bearings are just wiped.
I just think the bearings are just wiped out because somebody might have run out of oil or overheated the engine.
Yeah, so you just put new bearings.
Standard bearings back in it. And you'd be
but what if you have a 001, a 10,000, 100,000ths? You got a problem.
I don't think that engine was ever taken apart, ever when I took the heads off it and stuff. Those. Sometimes you can tell these have been messed with and they're pulled out.
But maybe it was done when the engine was a year old and someone didn't put, and it's been knocking since it was a year old, rattling.
That could be why it was in the junkyard. Somebody thought the engine was no good.
30 years ago. Okay, I think I should have bought you more of those.
For $100, man. Well, of course, back then you could buy Corvairs for $100.
That's all they were worth.
The junkyard for $100 a piece. That's what they were back then. $100 each.
So this is a pretty good block. Nothing's pulled out of it. Nothing manual.
It was a wreck.
What was a wreck?
That wagon I bought.
Oh.
The other 5 I had, I junked them. They were all rusted. You step right through them. Wow. So.
All the parts for my Rampside. 2 sets of full pistons and rings.
The engine ran okay, the little 80 horse, because it was, you know, it was worn down and the rings were...
Well, they run forever because they're not stressed, you know.
And it didn't have brand new rings in it, so there wasn't any noise. But you put new rings in an engine without the bearings, you're going to get it.
Well,
the guy at the convention did that. He spent a fortune on that Spider convertible, and he had it running, and he goes, listen. He had a inner clunking noise inside the motor.
Well, you put more stress on everything, and then it's all wore out.
I said, I spent a fortune on all new internal parts in that engine, and somebody rebuilt it for him. I said, gee, something's wrong.
You got to be a Corvair rebuilder. You have to specialize. Like a 6.5 rebuilder has to specialize in that. You pay for experience.
You got to just know what the heck you're doing.
Now this crank, is this a 164 crank? Can you tell by looking?
What's the casting number?
It says it on the end here on tape. It's got CORVAIRWILD written on it.
Yep, see that number right there? 8409?
Yeah.
That's a late model.
So that crank's going to have to be, can that be polished? It's a little on the rough side.
Yeah, I think it'll polish out.
You think so?
Yeah.
Will you use fine sandpaper, or what do you use? Some kind of...
I use like, you're supposed to use emery cloth. That crank's okay.
So does it wear more further from the oil pump? Which that's the bell housing cam side, and the oil pump is on this side. So would it be more worn there, or have you seen that ever?
No, I haven't seen that. I just see if one wipes out, if it gets plugged up or something, it just wipes out one of them.
Because we start getting into scored cranks, and you got to start turning the crank and then measuring everything from scratch. That's a full, expensive rebuild.
You might want to replace this gear because that's also scarred up.
Oh yeah, that looks bad. How do you do that?
You can press it off
yourself.
Yeah.
Do you put the crank in the freezer or something and then heat it up a little bit?
Just heat the gear up a little bit.
Right. All right. So we're dropping off all of our Corvair parts. You got all the junk here. You got more pistons. 60 over pistons, which it's hard to find good cylinders to bore 60 over because you get the porosity.
Yep.
Is the truck bell housing the same as the car?
Yep.
All right, so we're safe with that.
All 4.
140 exhaust, not mine. Genuine Fitch Sprint exhaust, old school. That's going on my Fitch Sprint. Bumper, step bumper.
Well, it's a cast. There's just a hole, not a hole, but it's a dip.
Oh,
yeah, and it's got a 625 number, the casting number. That's where the parts junkyard primer is wrong. These are the ones with the 383 numbers are the late motor ones. The 625 part numbers are for the early engines up to 63. Oh. So there's actually 4 bell housings, 2 earlys and 2 late.
They're all the same thing, just different numbers.
Corvair heaven, but no time to do a tour. No time to do a tour. Padded dash, nice cassette radio, 4-speed. Beautiful paint job. Wow. Wow. Paint job. Buff to perfection. Tar top battery. 164. Yeah. 110 horsepower.
Then that puts your gear in the wrong spot.
Bigger bolts. Top cover bolts.
Or shorter on that, you know, they changed everything. You know, for the deeper flex and everything. That's why that gear is different. See, the 60 to 63 gear is different than a 64 through 9. You know, that gear on the crank. That's a different gear.
So these are car heads.
What was wrong with my Corvair? That blue 64 I had, when you started, the neighbor could hear me starting.
Oh yeah, it sounds terrible.
It's a horrible
Nothing
noise.
lines up, yeah.
So the Bellhausen was old and versus new? Or?
Well, yeah.
Because he put a 140 in that 64. He had a good running 140.
Yeah.
So he put that in.
But I never
But he
changed
might
the
put it
Bellhausen.
early. Well, yeah, but you don't know what somebody else did.
Okay, raise your hand if you like going to the doctor's office. Right.
The heck is this?
Not the most comfortable place to spend your time. You're sick, you're worried about what's wrong, and you're probably covered up by what amounts to a few pieces of toilet paper. Most of us just want to get out of there as fast as possible. But when the news isn't good, there are tough choices to be made about treatment and the cost of your options. Peter Ubel.
Corvair oil spill. It's marking its spot. Peace, love. Bolt-on old center caps, 14-inch. Greenbrier. Need a little bit of work on that building. All these Corvairs just waiting for something. 69. Yep. Been here. Done that. Flamethrower. 64. 63. No squeak there. Bondo bucket. Sears Electric. Peeking out everywhere. This is what I wanted to show you. Step bumper. Wrap around. Saw some in the junkyard in Fresno, went right to the wheel opening. Needs a little fluid film. Corvairs everywhere. Rampside. Good for parts. Well, might be restorable. Mystery picture. Whoop. Huh. Rampside. There it is. My Rampside. 6.2 and a 700 R4 transmission. There is a 6.2 sitting there, all rebuilt. How's that for a nice battery box? Not rusted. That's what you get from Arizona. Thank you, Charlie Dye. That's what we've been doing, squeaking doors in junkyards.
Hey, you need a DMC van like that. what you need.
They're hard to find. A long one?
This is not a long one.
But the long one
I
with
want
with.
a long one, but
I know.
they're really hard to
They're
find.
really a
This is what you
6.5.
need right
They
now.
made the newer ones in 6.5 turbos with a turbo in the middle behind. Yeah.
This is what you need.
I've seen them, but
with the dress package on it and stuff.
yeah, all chromed.
It just needs brake work.
Yeah. One needs tires. It needs a van. I mean, it needs a lot of stupid stuff. But it's a pretty good van.
It's nice.
Oop.
You know, he's always going to find stuff.
Pick.
That's fixable.
Well, I don't want to pick my nose in front of you, so I'll pick your doors. This is not a long one either.
No.
Is this a diesel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a decent.
6.2 diesel. It's funny how they mixed and matched the years. You get some turbos in this and non-turbos in that.
Well, they didn't put any turbos in the van until they went to the new body.
The new body style. And how do you work on those things? The turbo's in the back of the engine. Craziness. I wanted to ask you a question here. I forgot what it was.
Okay.
Do you have any Corvairs for sale? No. Oh, you've rearranged the furniture.
I always move them around.
I didn't know.
Sinking to the ground.
I didn't know.
Huh.
I'll have to look.
And see the Chevy with the Bowville. That's the Bowville there.
Oh, and the bell housing you were saying?
Huh?
The bell.
Better one, GMC.
No, I mean, it's just
Badge engineered.
Fine. Yeah, that's badges only.
Yeah,
I was going to
just-
show them a bell housing here.
It's badge engineered. Oh, you're looking for the one that has
I was
that
gonna show
dimple?
him that
Oh, here it is, right here. So is the depth different?
Yeah.
The crank, just
Yeah.
a slight, must be an eighth of an inch?
70 thousandths off. Yeah, here's one. Here's the early. See that hole there?
That must be early.
Yeah, that's an early. Well, that's 60 to 63. You know, the small motors. When they went to the 164 engine, they changed the bell housings. See, there's another early. There's a late.
And that's you were saying that the Corvair primer junkyard.
They're backwards. See, this is a 625. See the part number? That's the old Corvair part number, 625.
Makes you think of diesel,
That's how you know it's an early
6265.
Yeah, exactly.
Go figure, huh?
Yeah.
The early ones have a circle in it. I've never
Yeah.
seen one.
Well,
Or paid attention.
you don't pay attention. You don't pay attention.
No, I've never seen one on there at home now.
Look through your stuff. I bet you got one you don't even know.
Turbo
You think
weasel.
that's 60 to 63?
That's 60, 63. I know it is.
I've never seen one.
See, that's a Chevy van. That's the, see, that's if that was a GMC, they Bandura on it. That's a Chevy, so it's a Chevy van.
I never paid attention. I know that they have differences. The grill is a little bit different.
Yeah, the grill's different.
Right.
It's just little stupid stuff.
Yeah, generally the GMC grill is rounder
Yeah, it's got a bigger mouth.
with painting, with body color painting on the Suburbans around the lights,
Yeah.
just to confuse you.
Yeah, just,
Yeah. There's no
it's
real.
worth that extra $200 or whatever GMC costs it.
Well, but if you have a deal with a GMC dealer, or it's nearby, or you like the salesman, or he gives you better trade-in because
Yeah.
you got, it's all a big game. And oh boy, oh, this is the four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
That's
It's,
rusty. Nasty.
you think
What
it's
they put in those vans?
What
305
vans?
V8? That GMC 305?
That one's got 350, but you could get with 4.36 or a 305 or 350 or the 16 or 65.
Lot of-
a year.
oh boy, that's not pretty.
That's a good motor.
Yeah.
Jeez, this isn't too
4-bolt
pretty.
main, too.
Tough motor too, those 350s.
Yeah.
The 4-bolt mains usually had smaller valves
Yeah.
for cooler running.
Just the brakes. Love the running
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
61 Monza. What color is this? Sierra
I
tan?
don't know. It's tan to me.
Tan with a,
Beige.
well, everybody knows the colors. Sierra tan, Adobe beige.
Put some 61 stuff on
No,
it.
it's a 60. This is 61 car. It's got 63.
63, beautiful. That's the color. That's the root beer color of my 63.
Wow.
Which
Which
I-
interior?
Well, it's a lot better than mine. Mine's junk. I've got
No,
two
we got
65.
two of them down there. Same thing. 261 Monza Coupe, beige on beige. Roasted.
Haha.
Oh, yeah, everything's roasted down there. Oh, the body, yeah, the body's perfect. Who wants a 61?
A 61 what? Monza?
61 anything.
Oh, come on. What about a 60?
Who wants a 60?
Ah! We saw a beautiful one in California. Where were we? At that California salvage. It had a beautiful 64 door. Like grandma gave it to her son. The son just said junk it.
Oh,
Sitting in
my.
the junkyard, ready to go. Ready to go.
Oh,